to lay over. So just kind of keeping that shape in mind as you find find something to use. And just so we all know, this is a 1-hour class. Devin and I will be teaching, as many of you have already met both of us, but just to give her a little spiel, I'll be teaching, Devin will be demoing, and then we switch this process. On Thursday, we do a restorative class that Devin teaches and I demo. So we'd love to see you for both. Without any further wait, we'll go ahead and get started because we're already a little behind time. So go ahead and take that blanket. Devin will show just how she's gonna roll it up. She's gonna just take one end and slowly and compactly, keeping it as dense and tight as possible, roll up a nice tube that she'll place at the front of her mat, just as you see in the film. And then she's gonna lay over the roll, and it's going to come right into the middle of her shoulder blades. She's gonna bring her heels into her glutes and then roll by pushing into her feet, lifting her hips, rolling the shoulders down over the roll until her shoulders are firmly on the mat and her head is on the mat as well. And then she'll straighten her legs one at a time and let her arms come out to the side. They should be on top of the roll, so the shoulders coming out in one line, palms facing up to help with that opening of the chest. And you even want to feel, as you rolled back, hopefully you feel the skin being pulled down the back. Like there's even a stretch in the neck a little bit, just from the way that the momentum of the roll and your body is pulling the skin down. And then just come here and close your eyes and rest your tongue. Find a place in your mouth that it won't bother you or take your attention away from relaxing here and from opening the chest and coming into this really gentle back bend. Just letting the feet be heavy. And just normal breathing here, no need to control the breath. Just letting yourself inhale and exhale at whatever rhythm you need. And just watching yourself breathe. My teacher always says, the body breathes you. I've always loved the wording of that phrase because our breath is just a natural process, something we don't have to put any effort into, so we can fully relax here and let the body take care of us. And you'll notice that as you spend more time here, you'll feel the roll and the lift of the chest. The back will start to talk to you and you'll feel heavier. And these are all things to notice and to observe, but not get too attached to, and try not to furrow the brow or bring any tension in the face as different feelings and different sensations come up in this moment. So I'm just going to let a few more moments pass by in silence, just to allow you to fully arrive here at your mat to your practice. Okay, so we're gonna make our way out of the pose, and I just want you to listen so you don't come out of it too fast and tweak anything, because our spines are gentle creatures. So go ahead and bend your left leg and roll over to your right side, and use the arm that your head is resting on as a pillow, and then take the other hand and push the roll away under you. And just lie on your side for a moment. Let your belly be really heavy here. And then pushing the prop out of the way, all the way off the mat, come onto your back and just lie with a flat back just for a moment, just to reset the spine. Keeping the knees bent, The feet can go wide, the knees can come in and touch, or you can just bend the knees and have them point them straight up. Hands can be on the chest, on your stomach, or on the ground. Just a few more moments of softness before we start moving. And then again, being really gentle here, keeping the eyes closed until you're all the way seated. Roll over onto your right side. Use your hands and push yourself up. Try to let the head come last. Beautiful. So we're going to do a series of Vajrasanas, which are feet and ankle exercises to help open the hip and alleviate knee pain, and of course ankle pain. It works up the whole leg. So this one has a very malicious sounding name, but it's a fantastic pose. It's called a toe breaker. So you can see Devin here, you're going to come up onto your knees and press the calves into the earth, and then she's going to go ahead and tuck her toes under. So she's pressing the toes down and really stretching the full bottom of the foot. And then she's going to sit back on her heels. And she's using her hands to even press the heels in so her feet don't separate. So she really is focusing on the accuracy here of getting to the bottom of her feet. Even checking on your pinky toes, tucking them under. They like to hide and stay behind the foot sometimes. So you can look back and use your hands and manually pull them forward. And if your pinky toes don't touch the floor, then they just get to hang out here. And that is perfectly acceptable. So go ahead and tuck the tailbone under, and then let the hands slide down the legs until they reach the knees and they're fully straight. And then you can go ahead and tuck your chin and bring a roundness to the spine, letting the full weight of your body, the upper body, relax and come down onto the feet. And we're gonna hang out here for a few moments. I know this is very intense. It's so good for you. Hang in there. If you have to come out, obviously, always do what is best for you. But if you can endure the pain, the payoff is fantastic. It will feel like you have new feet. So just a few more moments. Breathing into anything you're feeling, anywhere that you're feeling it. There can be lots of places that you're feeling this pose. Bringing back life and vitality into our little feetsies who have been covered and wrapped up throughout winter. We are now letting them move around, hike, bike, dance, do more yoga, get outside more. Our feet are finally being asked to be active again. So this is just a little self-care routine for our feet. Just a few more breaths. Notice if it's getting hard to breathe. Your mind might just be in your foot right now. All you can think about is getting out of this pose. Hang on. Let the face relax. Okay, and then go ahead and release. Come onto the very tops of the feet, just coming forward, putting the hands on the ground, just taking the tops of the feet down to the mat. And just as she did in the last one, she's gonna keep the heels together. You can use your hands and reach back. You'll see in the shot here, as she sits back, she's pulling her heels together. And you're gonna do the exact same thing. Bring the glute right on top of the heel. And you can even reach back and press all your toes down into the mat, making sure that they're kind of being told to relax and press into the ground. And then once again, tucking the tailbone under, bringing the full weight of your upper body down. And you'll have to do a little work here to keep the heels together. They're gonna want to separate and make room. And we really wanna keep the top of the foot straight and the ankle in line with the shin and the calf. So just do your best here. And then again, letting the arms straighten, hands coming over the knees, tucking the chin, rounding the spine, and letting the belly be soft. Breathing naturally. Keeping tension out of your jaw. I know that when things get difficult and challenging, we grind our teeth, we clench our jaw. And it can be so unconscious. We have so many muscles that we hold on to without even thinking about it. So here we have the time to focus on what is happening outside of the cueing. So I don't want you to clench your jaw. Just release your face. If you're gripping your knees with your hands, this is another thing to look out for. Try to just keep your fingers really soft. And even though your arms are straight, they're not hyperextended. The elbows are soft. The upper body is just heavy and relaxed. So just a few more moments here. Just breathing. Beautiful. And then we're gonna go ahead and come up onto our knees and release the feet. You can go ahead and come take a look at Devin really quick. She's gonna take that roll. If you unrolled your blanket or towel, go ahead and just quickly roll it back up, make it nice and tight. We're going to place it in the center of our calf, right in between our thigh and our calf, and then go ahead and bring the feet together and then sit back. I will warn you that this will be intense. The calf and the shin hold a lot of unknown tension. And it's not until we use a prop like this that we can really press into to feel the muscle knots and to feel any buildup that's been going on in that part of our body. It kind of hides really well back there. And then once again, seeing if you can let the legs relax, the upper body relax. Really let yourself morph into the blanket. Don't fight it. I know it's easier here to flex the legs to avoid the pain, but that's just furthering all that tension. That's just allowing it to live there, and we want to let it go. And again, bringing a roundness to the spine as you let the arms straighten and the fingers come towards the knees. They might not reach here, and that's okay. But we're just giving them a very simple job so we can focus on the bottom half. And again, noticing if you're clenching or bringing any tension into your face, maybe into your hands, maybe into your stomach, releasing the belly, a lot of unconscious abdominal gripping happens throughout life. Our emotions live in our gut. So just breathing here. You're almost done. This is our last Vajrasana. Believe it or not, there are 5, and the other 2 are amazing and painful. So we're just going to do these 3. Just a few more moments. See if you can get even a little bit heavier. Again, just melting into the blanket. You're fully supported here. Seeing if you can massage into those muscles even just a little bit more. And then bringing the spine back up, placing the hands on the floor, come forward and move the roll out and away from your mat. We won't be using the blanket again until the end of class, so you can get it out of your way. You can stay where you are as long as you're in the middle of your mat. We're going to go ahead and come into down dog. So place your hands in front. Make sure that your middle finger is pointing straight ahead, and then pressing into the thumb, the base of the middle finger and the base of the wrist, really setting up your arms here, feeling the inner arms stretch, opening the clavicle, the collarbone area, and then tucking the toes under, bringing an arch to the upper spine, and then lifting and straightening the legs, letting the head come through last, trying to maintain that upper thoracic curve of the spine. And then let the head hang here. Let the neck be heavy. And straighten the legs as much as you can. The heels do not have to come down to the ground. You're pressing evenly into the foot, as much as the foot that is on the ground as you can. Just noticing even if the heels aren't on the floor and you don't have those four corners to work with, then you're pressing evenly through the metatarsal, the front of the foot. You're pressing evenly through the hands. Your arms are straight. You're breathing. Every inhale, your arms straighten as if they're lengthening forward. Every exhale, the heels come a little bit closer to the ground, or they're stretching back towards the back of the mat. Just like we were doing in our Vajrasanas, imagining that the bottom of the foot is even getting a stretch here. Breathing. Relaxing the face, relaxing the throat. Checking back in with the arms. Are they straight? Are they strong? Are your elbows locked? Make sure that if you have that hyperflexion in your elbows, that hyperextension, that you softly bend them so that you're using the muscles and not the joints. And as you start to build heat here, invite a deeper breath in and out of the body. Let that cool the system. Let the breath cool the system. Let that be your AC unit as you're building the heat, building the tapas. And then go ahead and bend the knees. Come down into child's pose, letting the arms be extended, turning the toes over tops of the feet. Come to the earth. And then tucking the chin just slightly, bringing the hairline to the mat. So there's a very slight roundness to the back in child's pose. Our tendency is to reach our arms as forward as we can, really extend as much as we can, straighten the back, and it becomes a pose that already has too much effort in it. It has a little bit of effort, but there's softness here. The belly is relaxed, the spine is slightly curved, all the way from the tailbone to the top of the neck. There's a release. So just letting that heat come out of your body and into the mat, cooling down. And then pressing into the hands, coming all the way up, slowly making your way into Tadasana. And we're gonna stand in the middle of our mat, facing the front. So you'll have room at the top of the mat and at the back of the mat. You guys all look great. Perfect. Okay, so we're coming into Trikonasana. So take your right foot forward and your left foot back. Your hips will face the side of your mat, both of them in line. Pelvic region is balanced. Take your hands to your hips, lift your chest, lift your kneecaps, strengthen the quads here, press into the big toe side of the front leg and press into the back pinky toe side of the left leg, really strengthening the legs here. And then take the arms out wide, shoulders and arms in one line, and then just come down. Nothing fancy. Don't bring that left hand or left arm all the way up quite yet. Keep it on the hip and then just pull the elbow behind you. It will help open the chest. And then taking the right hip as if I was reaching right in front of you, cupping that hip and pulling it forward. Do that work. I'm gonna scroll through here. Oh, you guys look so great. Letting the neck be in line with the spine. Don't let the head drop. If it gets hard to look right out, look down at the foot. Breathing here, keeping the strength in the legs. And then go ahead and take that left arm and bring it right out of the shoulder socket. Bring the fingertips together. And then really bring the shoulders back. Bringing the shoulders back, See if you can look up and take a glance at your fingertips just for a moment, coming into the full pose. And then if someone was reaching up on that arm, reach all the way up and come out of the pose. Beautiful. Heel toe, step your feet back together, coming back into the center of the mat, facing the front, finding your Tadasana. Roll the shoulders up and back. Let the shoulders chase the wrists. Fingers softly touching. Lift the quads. Feet together. Soft face. Okay. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So again, cutting the mat in half, bringing the left foot forward, right foot back, setting up for your Trikonasana, taking the hands to the hips, really pulling the elbows behind you, feeling the chest lift and the shoulders squeeze together. And then notice if you're popping your rib cage out, and try and keep that chest lift, but pull the rib cage in and tuck the tailbone slightly. You can even use the hands here to pull the upper body down and get a little action going here, just to set up the chest, the top body before we come down and it becomes a little hard to navigate. So again, taking the arms straight out of the shoulders and then coming down, finding your ankle, finding the floor, wherever you are comfortable. If you need a block here, I 100% invite that. I should have said that on the other side, I apologize. But any props you need, any support here is absolutely welcome. And again, keeping the legs really strong, pressing into the big toe of the front foot, pressing into the pinky toe side of the back leg, grounding through the feet, through the quads. And then again, that right hand is on our hip. We're taking the elbow back behind us and the shoulder down the spine. It's going to add a whole new sensation to Trikonasana. And then just as I was kind of verbally walking you through that assist, we're going to do the same thing. I'm coming up right in front of you. I'm taking both of my hands. I'm scooping them underneath that front leg and I'm pulling the hip towards me. That's the action I want you to do. Don't hyperextend in the knees. Notice if you're doing that. Notice if that's somewhere that you unconsciously go and that you know in these standing poses you need to check in on. That's progress in the practice, is kind of understanding our bad habits in a sense, relearning these poses. Again, keeping the gaze straight out. If it ever gets too much on the neck, always just looking down at the foot. Just don't let the neck be completely limp. Rolling the shoulders down the back. It can be easy to let them start creeping up. Again, keeping that hip towards the side of your mat, trying to stack the hips. And then again, taking that right hand, bringing it all the way up, right out of the shoulder. Fingertips together. Your hand is like one unit. And then see if you can take the gaze, only if the neck invites it, and looking right up, staring at your fingertips. Adding a little bit of a balance challenge here. As my teacher likes to say, there's some wind in the room today. I'm gonna go ahead and reach that arm up as if I was pulling you up and out of the pose. Come on out. Beautiful. And then heel toe your feet together, coming back into Tadasana. Resting in that slightly active mountain pose. Rolling the shoulders up and back. Tucking the tailbone here just slightly. It can be really easy to just let that low back pop out. Yeah, Devin, that's nice if she does it from this side. Can you show them what it looks like when your tailbone's really popped out? Yeah. So that's like a booty Tadasana. We want to tuck the tailbone in, lengthen the entire back, and then bring the shoulders up and down. And then again, the rib cage likes to pop out too, so we're pulling the rib cage in as well. This is a pose that's overlooked so often, so I have kind of made it a point to teach it every single time with a lot of cueing. So, okay. Go ahead and release that. Come to the back of your mat. You're going to line your heels up in the middle of the mat, perpendicular. There we go. You can see, Devin, if that didn't make sense to you. And then go ahead and lift your toes, spread them, find all four corners of your feet, just to get that idea. As you step the right foot out to the right and left foot out to the left, coming into a wide stance, we're setting up for Prasarita Padottanasana. So taking your hands to the hips, and again, doing that same thing that we were doing with our Trikonasana. We're pulling the elbows behind us and then bringing the shoulders down and tucking the tailbone here. Notice if your ankles are really puffing out and you need to press into the arches of the feet, or maybe you need to do the opposite, and that's press into the pinky toe side of the feet. But just make sure here that your feet are grounded evenly. And you can always check in with this by noticing if the area of your foot is turning completely white. Like if it's blanched white, you're probably pressing a little bit too much weight in there. Let's keep the circulation going in those little feetsies. So again, go ahead and lift the chest. Follow the gaze as the chest lifts. And then coming down, bringing the chest parallel to the ground and then taking the hands down to the floor, keeping a concave back. So the gaze is looking right out in front of you. If your hands don't come down to the floor, you can always try to take a wider stance here. If that's still not reachable for you, then build the height underneath the hands. Bring blocks, bring a chair, whatever you need to be able to get that concave upper thoracic spine. I brought this analogy into class last week as if I were to take a can of water and pour it from your tailbone down your back, it would pool in the center of your shoulder blades. And the same actions that we were doing in down dog, pressing into the base of the middle finger, the base of the wrist, there's a line drawing there, and then creating that, finishing that triangle with the base of the thumb. Pressing into the full hand, stretching the palm. No body part left behind. And just breathing here. And then let the head come through the arms, walk the hands back, coming into the full pose. There is a roundness to the spine here. Also, the same thing with child's pose. You're bringing it a little bit of that roundness all the way from the tailbone to the neck. So see if you can tuck the tailbone in just slightly, as if you were sending it down into your glutes, letting it puff out just a little bit. And again, if your hands don't meet the floor, if your head doesn't meet the floor, I'm sorry, bring height up to meet wherever you are in the pose. And again, taking notes. If you notice that this is something you need every single time, then have the tools available to you so that you don't have to waste any time. You can get the full benefit of the asana and not have to kind of scramble, create any panic, because everything's just set up for you. Breathing here, keeping the legs really strong, pulling up on the kneecaps, flexing the quads. Then go ahead and straighten the arms, bring the gaze up, walk the hands out, bring a little bit more stability, bring back into that beginning pose. And then heel toe the feet closer together. You feel a little noodly at the end. Bringing the hands to the hips, come up with a straight back. And then bringing the feet back together, toes touching, heels touching, Tadasana. Beautiful. Coming back into that nice, strong stance. Seeing what cues stick with you that we talk about throughout the class, these Tadasanas. Are you grounding through your feet? Are you lifting the kneecaps? Are the shoulders coming down the back? Do the fingertips come together or do they stay apart? We tend to pick maybe two things that we hold on to throughout our practice, and it's interesting to notice what we kind of get stuck on. And usually it's the stuff that feels good. So it's important to remember to do the stuff that doesn't feel good, working with keeping ourselves in alignment. Okay, so staying exactly where you are, go ahead and do the exact same thing, coming into that wide stance. Right foot comes out, left foot comes out. And then we're gonna go ahead and take the right toes and turn them completely out, and then take the left toes and turn them in just slightly. Take the hands to the hips and square the hips towards the front of the mat. Perfect. And then as we've been doing through class, lifting the chest, squeezing the elbows, letting the shoulders come down the back. And we're gonna go ahead and bend the front knee to 90 degrees and come up on our back toes. So we're coming into this high lunge position. You may need to widen your stance, move the feet around, inch that front foot forward. We're really coming into 90 degrees here. And then just breathing here for just a few moments. The reason we started with the Vajrasanas was all for this, to be able to come up onto our back toes and really hold our body onto the top of the back foot. And then lifting the chest here, lifting the gaze. And then letting the hands release from the hips, bringing the chest parallel to the ground. Let both hands come to the inside of the foot, the big toe side of the foot. We're coming into a lunge-like position. But just like in Prasarita, you're going to keep the arms straight, the gaze lifted, and again, bringing that upper spine together, finding a little curve there. And then keeping that right hip tucked in. Pull it into the socket. Press the knee into the shoulder. Lift the left hip slightly if you notice it's dropping. And when you lift the left hip, remind the right hip to move in. Left hip up, right hip in. These actions happening together at the same time. Breathing here. And then dropping onto the back knee, curl the toes, come onto the top foot, or uncurl the toes. And then go ahead and take the gaze down and see if you can come forward even just slightly. Rolling or kind of pulling that back leg towards the front of the mat. That knee is going to come over the ankle slightly, and that's absolutely okay. Again, just keeping that right hip in, that shoulder and knee connection, and maybe lifting the left hip just slightly here. Really feeling a stretch in that left thigh that we're working for, and I mean that intense right hip flexion is happening as well. And then go ahead and lift the gaze. Take your hands to the hips or take the hands to the knees, I'm so sorry. Bring each hand one on top of the other, keeping the toes in the leg as is. Press the knee away from the body. Try to straighten the arms. They might not straighten, that's okay. And then lift the chest. You can take a look at the Devon if you're confused about the shape, and just intensifying that stretch in the left leg. And then taking the hands back to the hips, curling the back toes under, straighten that back leg. Really straighten it as much as you possibly can. Tuck the tailbone in as much as you possibly can. Now straighten the front leg, release yourself out of the pose. Toes pointing back towards the front, just as you started. And just taking a couple deep breaths. Great work. You guys all looked amazing. Okay, so coming to the other side. You can tell Devon's a little out of breath. That was a hard sequence, but it feels so, so good. Okay, taking the left toes, turning them out. Right toes turned in just a little bit for a moment, and then squaring the hips towards the front of the mat. Squaring the chest and the hips. And you'll notice that the back leg, that hip will kind of fall behind, and that's okay. I don't want you to move the feet around too much to perfectly square the hips, because as we kind of move around in our lunges, that's just not a necessary place that they need to be. So again, taking the elbows together, lifting the chest, bending the front knee 90 degrees, coming up onto the back toes. Noticing if you need to find a wider stance here. Taking the thigh parallel to the floor, challenge yourself here, breathe. Lift the gaze, lift the chest. Let the head follow the lift of the chest. Tuck the tailbone, take the hands and press the hips down. Really aiding that tailbone to move in. And then taking the hands again down to the ground, to the inside of the big toe. Coming onto the tippy toes, keeping the arms straight, gaze is looking right out ahead of you. And coming into that concave back, the same one we did in Prasarita Padottanasana. Breathing here. And now that your hands are on the ground, we need to think about them. We need to think about pressing evenly into our hands. Again, finding that triangle, the middle finger down to the base of the wrist, over to the base of the thumb. And then lifting the gaze, really pulling the shoulders down the back. Again, keeping that left hip in, pull it in, straighten the back leg and lift the right hip. Balancing the pelvis, balancing the hips. Breathing deeply here. Give your body as much oxygen as it needs. If you're ever gasping for air, you can always come down. Should never be stressful to find breath. Maybe challenging. And go ahead and drop that back knee, uncurl the toes, come onto the top foot. And then again, taking both hands to that left knee, one hand on top of the other, or interlacing the fingers, pressing the knee away. Maybe the knee comes over the ankle and lifting the chest. And as you lift the chest, then let the gaze lift. The head's just along for the ride. The chest is doing the lifting. And then again, seeing if you can maybe drag that back leg forward just slightly. It could be a micro movement here, not a big movement, just deepening the stretch along that back quad. Maybe even feeling it in the inner groin and the psoas. And then taking the hands to the hips, curl the toes under. And straighten that back leg, coming back up just for a moment, lifting the chest, and then straighten the front leg, turning the toes forward, coming back, and then heel toeing your feet together, coming into Tadasana. The resting pose, the resting standing pose. Again, keeping a little bit of effort here though. Try to retain that focus, even though that you just got through a really difficult portion of the class. A lot of heat was being built. Still try to carry that through and build a really strong mountain pose practice. It's a great place to find a moment of meditation and let your body do the work. Standing strong on your own 2 feet. Okay, so going again back to that same place we've been going, taking the feet apart, using the back of the mat to line up the heels so we're nice and accurate, taking a really wide stance here. We're gonna come into Warrior One. Perfect, so if you needed to take that extra length in your lunges, then you'll need to probably do it here. So again, taking those right toes and turning them away towards the front of the mat, and then taking the back left toes and pointing them at an angle just towards the front corner, the opposite corner of the mat, hands to the hips. Again, bringing the hips, squaring them towards the front of the mat, but knowing that it won't be perfect, that that back leg will pull the hip back, and that's 100% natural and okay. So keeping the chest lifted, trying to bend the front knee to 90 degrees. And again, coming up onto the back toes just for a moment to get that 90 degree. And now see if you can twist and bring the heel down at the same time. It might not touch, you might need to hover it, but that's 100% okay. Just find the pose where you need it. And then taking the arms and bringing them all the way up by the ears. Lifting the chest, again, not lifting the gaze, letting the head just go along for the ride. We're just lifting the chest here. Really reaching up through the arms, feeling the extension and the stretch through the side body, all the way up through the armpits. Feeling a line of energy coming through the inner arm, all the way shooting out your middle finger. Bringing the hands down to the hips, straighten that front leg, and release, come out of the pose, bringing the toes back together, staying in our wide stance. You're almost done. Taking those left toes, turning them out, right toes point towards the front of the opposite corner. Really grounding through the feet, squaring the hips. And then again, lifting the chest, letting the head come along as the gaze lifts the chest, as the chest lifts, the gaze lifts. Squeezing the shoulder, or squeezing the elbows so that the shoulders fall down the back, tucking the tailbone, setting all that up, and then take a bend in that front knee, 90 degrees, coming back up onto those tippy toes, just for a moment. See if you can tuck the tailbone here even just a little bit more, And then again, swiveling that heel all the way down to the ground. Really pressing into the pinky toe side of that back foot, making it nice and strong and pressing fully into the front foot. Notice if your knee is a little bit wobbly here. See if you can relax the inner front leg's groin. So from that hip crease to the knee, see if you can relax that. Bring some lightness there. So it's not pulling the knee in or making it go out. And then again, lifting the chest, bringing the arms all the way up by the ears, reaching up, extending through the middle fingers, breathing, and then taking the hands down to the hips, straighten that front leg, toes pointing towards the front, heel, toe your feet together, coming back into Tadasana. Ooh, just for a moment. Fantastic. Closing your eyes here, balance allows. Maybe just a soft gaze down at the ground. Then go ahead and release your Tadasana and find your blanket wherever it ended up. And you can take it out of the roll that it's in and just lay it flat in the middle of your mat so that you have enough room for your full shin and knee to rest on the blanket. And we're coming into Ustrasana, so you're gonna stand on your knees just as Devin's doing. Knees are hip width apart. And we want the blanket to come, the crease of the end of the blanket to come right at the ankle. So you'll see Devin's feet are off of the blanket and that crease is cutting just right underneath the ankle. So to put some contact in between your ankle and the ground, which there's probably space, you can press down, stretching through the top of the foot and through the ankle. And if you have more height, or if you have space in the ankle, you can always roll the blanket, as you're seeing Devin doing, even a little bit more back there and create a little bit more height. I want you to be able to really press into something. So take as much height as you need, kind of do a little study, pressing fully into the tops of the foot, pressing the pinky toe sides down, and then taking the hands to the hips. Again, a lot of the same actions here, pulling the hips down, tucking the tailbone, bringing the elbows together. I keep wanting to call the elbows shoulders today. And then lifting the chest and bringing the head back as the chest lifts. Coming into the back bend. Coming in, slowly exhaling, coming back, and seeing if you can take your hands and reach them down to the heels, or maybe just keeping them right at the low back, wherever is comfortable. If the hands meet the feet, go ahead, and if the neck allows it, let the neck release and the gaze comes straight back. Once you're here, wherever you are, I want you to press as much weight down into the shins to lift the chest, creating even more space between the top of that calf, that shin, and the back and the chest. So if we could open that area up, pressing the legs down to lift the chest. Breathing evenly, and then taking the right hand and the left hand back to the hips. Inhale, coming all the way up, and head comes last, and then sit back on your heels. Let the chin tuck just slightly here, hands rest on the thighs. Just let the belly relax and breathe however you need to be breathed. Back bends are very invigorating. They can bring up pain, but they can also bring up a lot of emotions. And it's an area of our body that carries a lot of our emotions. We hunch forward when we're sad, we get stressed out and our shoulders come up to our ears. We get stressed and we clench our stomach. And all of that just got stretched out, opened up in Ustrasana. The belly stretches, the back opens, the heart lifts. Just letting all of that settle. Anything that came up, let it settle. And then go ahead and come out of that pose. Move the blanket out of the way. We won't be using it for the rest of class, so you can go ahead and just move it out of the space for now. And then go ahead and come onto your back, keeping the knees bent. And go ahead and walk your heels in as close to the glutes as possible. This is Chatupadasana, otherwise known as bridge pose. So we're gonna go ahead and bring the chin into the chest, just slightly stretching the back of the neck. Arms reach down the sides. And then go ahead and press into the feet and lift the hips up. And then once your hips are up, see if you can pull the shoulders underneath you even just a little bit more. And we're focusing on bringing the chest to the chin, not the chin to the chest here. Squeezing into the thyroid gland, our voice, our respiratory system, all of that blood, all of that effort, the soft breath, the relaxation that comes from this bandha. The lock of our throat. Keeping the hands reaching, the arms reaching, pressing into the feet, charging through the legs. This is the place that's going to tire out the fastest. But they're going to drive the chest towards the chin. Keeping the eyes soft. And go ahead and slowly release the pose. Walking the feet out just slightly here, away from the glutes. And then we're gonna bring the knees together and they're gonna come, the whole leg is gonna come on top of the abdomen. So you're just gonna curl the legs in to the body, keeping the feet slightly flexed. And then take the arms out, straight out of the shoulders. Palms facing up, again, bringing a little bit of the lift to the chest here. And then take the legs, both knees, over to the right. It's okay if the knees don't stay together perfectly, but try to keep them somewhat in line. This is a really soft twist, so nothing too extreme. And if your knees don't come down to the ground, feel free again to lift the ground up to you. Breathing here. And then inhale, on your next inhale, bring the knees back to center. Readjust anything that you need to, and then exhale the legs over to the left. Keeping the knees as close to the arm as possible. And again, keeping the knees even, but not being too hypervigilant here. Can be a little relaxed, slightly stacked. Letting all tension in the face dissipate. Let the belly be soft, like you're wringing yourself out. Bringing balance back to the spine from those 2 back bends that we did. Very similar shapes. Go ahead and inhale, come back to center, and then just plant your feet on the ground. And take the feet really wide as the mat, and just let the knees come in. And bring the hands to your belly or to your chest, wherever you find a sense of peace. Just bringing the arms into the body. It's a nice compact feeling, bringing the body in to embrace itself. Just already naturally having the hands rested on you, it feels calming. And then bringing the knees apart, bringing the feet together. We're going to come into Shavasana, a nice long, well-deserved Shavasana. So go ahead and let each leg come out long, one at a time. And then I'm going to have you even Help your legs extend a little bit more. See if you can press into the left heel, lift the right, and extend it out. Pull as if I was pulling your legs further down the mat. And then doing the same thing with the opposite leg, really stretching the whole front of the thigh here, even the inner lining of the legs. We did a lot of work there today. And then letting the arms come down by the sides, tucking each shoulder underneath the body, creating that natural lift of the chest, making sure the shoulders are being pulled down the back, making lots of room for the neck, each side of the neck equally as long as the other, tucking the chin just slightly so that your forehead and your chin make this nice slope. A slope that allows the eyelids to just naturally close as if they were just falling downhill. Letting the lips touch but barely be touching. I love to use the envelope analogy, like you're sealing an envelope. You lick each lip and then just let one rest on top of the other. Feeling the release all the way from each corner of your mouth down into the jawbone. Just finding the full weight of your body here. And while you're resting, I'm going to share today's reading from a book I bought years ago. It was the first book actually that I ever bought after a yoga class many moons ago when I was a teenager. The teacher I went to a class with read a quote out of this book that impacted me and made me cry in Shavasana, and I ran to Barnes & Noble and bought it, and I've had it ever since. I absolutely love it. It's called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, who's a fantastic meditative writer, describer, just of the spiritual world, the place that yoga touches us. It's hard to find those words to describe it sometimes. So today he goes through each day, today April 21st, titled The Gift of Surprise. It's very fitting for the times we are in now. While rushing to complete your dearest plans that you tell no one, you could bump into another, groceries will fly, and while picking up the ketchup, you might fall in love. Or in your second year of college, while studying what mom and dad want you to be, you could accidentally open a book on Albert Schweitzer and discover that you feel compelled to go to Africa. Or understanding geometry, you might decide to become a gardener, finding endless joy in creating landscapes. Or the death of a family member might open a side of you that is starving for history. It seems that at any moment of interest or pain or adversity can surprise us into the larger totality of life, breaking our current limits and allowing us the chance to redefine ourselves in regard to the larger sense that is upon us. That we are opened so suddenly, so often, is the way the soul unfolds on earth. We can never be prepared for everything. No one person can anticipate all of life. In fact, over-preparation is yet another way to wall ourselves in from free living. Rather, we can only prepare for how we might respond to the gift of surprise that often moves in on us faster than our reflex to resist. So continuing to focus and put effort into the effortlessness of Shavasana. Iyengar has said in a few different scenarios and talked about how it took him 20 years to accomplish Shavasana, the state of full body relaxation, no gripping, no tension, just softness. And he uses the word softness very deliberately because Shavasana is not still. It is translated as corpse pose, but we mimic the stillness of a corpse, but we are alive, we breathe. There are systems running internally as we lay here doing absolutely nothing. So practice here for this next minute, absolute relaxation. Softly transitioning back into a seat. So we'll start by taking deeper breaths, maybe wiggling the fingers and the toes, being really gentle with yourself here, no rush. Bending the left leg and turning over onto your right side, using the arm as a pillow, and just staying here for a moment. Let the belly go completely. And notice if that's hard to do. And keep letting go. Every exhale, let go even a little bit more. And again, taking really gentle care of yourself as you press yourself up, maybe keeping the eyes closed. Let the head come last, coming into a seated position in the center of your mat. We'll come in front here so we can all close together wherever you are in that nice seated position, bringing the palms onto the thighs, bringing the elbows in line with the rib cage, lifting the heart, letting the eyes close from top to bottom. Soft eyelids. Bringing the hands together in the center of the chest. The middle finger points straight up, pressing the thumbs into the sternum, lifting the chest even a little bit more. Bow the head, closed eyes down at the fingers. Namaste. Thank you so much, guys. You did so fantastic.